Hey everyone, Nathan Rose here with another rapid play game. So I've been on a bit of a hot streak over the last day or two. I'm back up above 1800 and let's see if we can keep it going. 1822, next stop 1900. Let's play a 15-minute plus 10-second increment game where I'm going to provide my thoughts as the game unfolds. Well, let's see who we get. I've had the black pieces a few times in a row over the last few games that I've played. Let's see if that keeps going. It's just searching the internet for someone to play me. I'm actually recording this on Valentine's Day. I saw the girlfriend a little earlier in the day and she preferred to have dinner with her parents tonight, so that's fine. That's all good. We actually had a weekend away together, so the evening I've got to play chess. So we've got someone, and I've got black again. 1750 is his rating. I'm going to try another King's Indian. It was pretty disastrous last time, for those who watched my last video. But let's see if we can do a little better this time. Nice thing about the King's Indian is that you can enter it through either if white plays 1 d4 or 1 c4. So it's a good response to anything except 1 e4, really. You can try playing it. So he's gone with this Sphere and Shadow setup. I expect he's going to play d4 pretty soon, but let's just do our normal stuff. Castle kingside, and he comes out with e4, which is unusual. So that does block his light squared bishop. If I can fix that pawn in place, which I might consider doing, I could play e5 myself, which would keep his bishop behind that pawn. Or I can play the normal King's Indian move, which is d6. Now, d6 would stop him from moving forward, and it is more familiar with the regular King's Indian setup that I'm more used to. So I just wonder, though, because my opponent's played something unusual, should I try something unusual in reply? I mean, e5 is a move that you tend to play anyway at some point in the King's Indian, and maybe now is actually the right time to play it. He's got the knight coming in here, but if he does that, I can just take it. I think I'm going to just put e5 on the board straight away. Right, so he moves his knight out. He's playing very quickly, which means he's either confident or not thinking too much. Hopefully it's the latter. That knight move is just getting ready to get castled, I guess. So I should just play a normal developing move too. I'm just going to play here. This makes my bishop free. I expect he'll probably castle next move. So he goes with d3. This is a backward pawn now. So obviously I've got this hole here on d4. This is an outpost that I can consider going to later. Of course it's covered by the knight at the moment, but if I put this knight here, then he'll have trouble ever moving this knight because I can just jump into that d4 square. See, that knight becomes a bit fixed in place. I could also consider putting this bishop out here. Now he could block it with this pawn, but that weakens the pawns around his king. It looks like a good developing move, moving the bishop out. It's sort of where I think it should go anyway. Like if he does kick it away with f3, I wouldn't mind too much, and I can always just retreat the bishop back here. I think this is a useful pin potentially, and something he wouldn't be so comfortable with. He could also play here, h3. Again, that weakens the pawns around his king. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one on the board first, knight c6, and then if he plays a normal move here like castling, then I think I can go in. Because I could even consider taking that knight and grabbing this as an outpost. I'm going to do this. This looks like a good plan. So he's again playing very quickly. So he does play that h3 move. Now, I've just realised that I can't really take that knight because it's defended by this other knight, and he ends up still with a knight guarding the d4 square. So that plan, well, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time because he has weakened the pawns around his king. I can drop the bishop back here, consider putting the queen behind it, and then this pawn becomes a little weak. He has to put his king there then. In any case, I've got to get this bishop out of danger, so that looks like the most natural square for it. I wonder what his overall plan is here. I mean, he's got the fianchetto set up. He might be looking to try a sort of reverse King's Indian on me. Like he might be trying to play f4 at some point. I wonder. So he's put his bishop into a natural square. Often the bishop does come here in the King's Indian. Has some nice influence along this diagonal. And a move that you often play is a5, which stops white from getting too much play on the queen side. I'm not worried about a5 at the moment because I could, if against b4, I can just take that pawn. So if I play the queen here, he plays the king here, what's really been achieved? That's the question. My queen's on a funny-ish square. His king's also on a strange square. It's sort of just a normal middle game position, isn't it? There's not really any tactics going on yet, I don't think. Do I want his king on h2? Not too sure really. I think I'm just going to keep playing normal moves. The rook often wants to come to the e-file in the King's Indian. I'll keep this idea up my sleeve. Queen c8. Looks a bit funny, but I'm interested to see what White's plan is actually, because I'm struggling for a plan, but in a way so is he. Or she. You never know on the internet, do you, whether you're up against a boy or a girl. So the reason he's put his queen here is he wants to trade off my dark squared bishop. I actually wouldn't mind that. I think his dark squared bishop, if anything, is better than mine. So if he puts his bishop here, I'd probably just take it and be happy to have taken it. Obviously, if I put the queen here, he just puts the king here. So I don't think there's much point in doing that. I need a plan. I need to start thinking about what I actually want from this position. Do I attack on the queen side myself? Maybe. Still fairly new to this opening, to be honest. So I'm still getting to grips with the plans around it. I could also consider trying to push f5 myself. Usually a plan you try in a more of a closed center position. I mean, a5 looks tempting. Grab a bit more space. Let's do it. Got to play a bit more quickly. I've noticed when I'm recording these videos where I'm playing a game live that I do get into worse time trouble, even worse time trouble than I do normally, if you can even believe that. Okay, so he's just stopped a5 by playing a4, so we've both got pawns on the a file advanced. Yeah, it feels like continuing on the queen side is probably wrong. So what do I want to do here? What do I actually want to do? What's the plan? What can I do? I mean, this knight, I sort of want this knight to come in here, don't I? Like, that seems like a good square for it. The thing is, if the knight is on this square, again, what is it doing? It's targeting this pawn. If the queen or bishop ever move, it's got this square it can come into, and it cannot be kicked away by a pawn. I think I'm going to try this. It's like, it's not clear exactly what that knight is doing, but it does give me the chance to start pushing some more pawns, like by moving that knight out of the way. And it just seems like a good square for it. It's sometimes hard to say exactly why. Okay, so he does go with this f4 plan, which I mentioned earlier might have been his idea. So he is pushing his pawns forward. If I take it, well, it improves his knight. If I don't take it, he pushes on. It seems like there must be a downside to playing a move like f4 though, right? Like, I'm not so sure that the position is really right for a move like that. This pawn here is now very weak. What I could consider is something along the lines of, if this knight moves, then this pawn becomes weak, or this pawn is already weak in fact. I could move here immediately, and then what does he do? He pushes on probably. Am I worried about that? Should I be worried about that? He does have a lot of power on that f-file, doesn't he? This is probably his whole strategy. I can revert to this queen here, but I don't know. I don't think it actually helps having his king here. If anything, it probably hurts me. Okay, if I take here, I've got more potential for this dark squared bishop as well after my knight moves. Let's see. Let's just calculate this. Takes, probably takes with the knight. My knight comes here. Okay, then he could take that, and then my pawn structure is very bad. So, instead, what I feel like I should do is maybe take there, put the knight here first. If he pushes on, well, okay, if he has a pawn here, then I guess that's a little uncomfortable, but he can't really open up the position too easily. Yeah, got to move quicker. Got to move quicker. That's for sure. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Feel like this bishop can have some potential now that this knight has moved. This pawn's still on pre. I'm thinking he's probably going to push on. It'd be just my luck to have a bunch of games where I win and win convincingly, and then the one that I record ends up being the one that I don't do so well in. Now let's give him something to think about. Okay, again, opponent's playing very quickly, which means that he has a plan and he's just happy to execute it. So he does go forward. So the critical decision is to take. Okay, so if I take, he takes. I've got some weaknesses around my king at that point, and this bishop is opened up. So I don't think I want to take this pawn. What do I want to do instead? So there's a rule in chess that if you are struggling on one part of the board, you should play on the other part of the board, right? So my advantage is probably actually on the queen side. So while he's doing his stuff here on the king side, I should be looking for play on the other side of the board. Thing is, the queen side is rather locked up, and now this knight doesn't seem to be doing too much, does it? I want to... maybe now's the time to put this queen behind the bishop. So look, he's got 2 defenders on this pawn. I've got 2 attackers at the moment. If I put another attacker behind the pawn, it forces him to make a decision. Like, if he's going to take, he's got to take now, because otherwise I can win a pawn. Having said that, he's just found a way to defend that pawn and gain more space. I can jump in here. If I do that, what happens? He takes, I take, and I'm down a pawn. So I do open up this bishop in some circumstances. Yeah, I have to say I'm not very comfortable with this position anymore. He's gained a lot of space and he's coming down with some speed into my position. Okay, let's see. Can I give up the pawn? Can I give up the pawn in order to open up the position? Let's see. Take here. Takes, takes, takes. This bishop has now got the diagonal. This rook is also opened up. It looks very weak to just go back with the knight, doesn't it? I'm going to try this. I know it loses a pawn. but I'm going to argue that it's going to open up some lines for me. Whether that's true or not, time will tell. I've got this check here as well, I've just noticed. Oops, with the bishop. Drawing lines and arrows is not always so easy. Okay, well, does that check do anything? Puts the king here or here. Not so sure that's really an improvement. At the moment he's got two defenders on that pawn, and I've got 3 attackers. I could actually win the pawn back, I think. Let's see. Take. No, doesn't work. 3 attackers, but one of them's a piece, so that does not work. Okay, now maybe I do look to go into this hole. This is the big weakness in his position, and I think this is the right time to go back. So that knight maneuver has turned out to be a bit of a waste of time. So my opponent's a pawn up, but he has weakened his king. So the game is really, I think, going to hinge on the question of, can I prove that he has overextended himself? He's got all his pawns on light squares, so his dark squared bishop is very important. If I can trade that, then I should be happy. This knight coming in here or here creates some threats. If he comes here, there's the threat of coming in here with the fork. White does have the knight coming into this square, but my opponent does have to think here. You know, he's got some decisions to make. He's probably got an advantageous position, but he needs to decide how to continue. He decides to just put some extra protection onto the d4 square, which seems sensible. I think I might just go in there anyway. If he takes, I'll be very happy because he'll be very weak on the dark squares. And if he doesn't take, then he's got to think about this hole here. And if he doesn't do anything, then the knight is very happy on this square. Let's see if he whips it off. Or if he misses the simple fork. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Wishful thinking. My opponent's 1750 and he's got all the time in the world. He shouldn't miss a move like that, but you know, they're only human. They very well might. I think that the knight is great on this square. So although I'm down a pawn, I have some compensation. I'd say I have good squares now for a good square for my knight. This bishop has got ideas along this long diagonal. The pawn here has to move really before it's much of a threat, but he's also got some weaknesses around his king. Okay, so he moves his rook away and puts it onto a more active square coming in towards here. So what do I want to do here? It's always useful to ask which pieces of yours are not playing. So at the moment, my queen is not really playing and my rook is not really playing. So if I want to fix that, I need to make some moves. I need to get them into the game. This bishop would love to cause some havoc. It's doing absolutely nothing on this diagonal. So I think what I want to do is I want to get the bishop out here so that if he ever tries to play e5, then we can exchange. And this also gives my queen, some way of getting into the game. So he goes down with a move that I did not see coming, which is very annoying. Is he threatening to win a piece here? Okay, don't panic. Do not panic. Right, so obviously I can't take that pawn because I would lose the bishop. And at the moment, the knight is also hanging. If I play here, unfortunately, he can keep attacking that knight. So now I've got to try this. I'll probably just go here. If he goes here, I can go back. No, I can't because he'll take. This has not gone so well. just missing the moves. I do. I have to say, you have to admire the YouTubers who are able to do this so effectively. Like in Blitz chess, there are some people who are just like their level of ability doesn't even change really, no matter whether they're commenting on their game or what. So now I've got 2 pieces attacked and I'm losing a piece. It's just as simple as that, isn't it? It's very, very annoying. Yeah, this King's Indian has just not been going well for me, I'm afraid. I need to look for something. I think the best I can do is just taking here, which is just horrible. I can't last very long with moves like that. He's gonna take it with the rook, and I'll be down a piece, and that's exactly what's happened. Now I've got to move the knight out of danger, so let's at least try and fight on. But I am down a whole piece. I am down a whole piece, and what's more, it's one of the most important pieces. It's the dark squared bishop. So he can come in with moves like this now, which makes my king extremely weak. And what is there to do? Like, what counterplay do I have? Problem with this King's Indian is that you often end up with a space disadvantage. So it's a new opening that I'm playing, but the other openings which I tend to play, I always prefer to play with at least space equality. And learning this sort of counter-attacking opening where you know that you're giving away the space, right, is tricky to get used to. So White has a whole lot of moves here. He can almost play anything he wants. I mean, he can go for trades. He can ramp up the pressure on my exposed king. Almost anything wins here. So what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping for, are some blunders. And last week I reviewed the book The Complete Chess Swindler, which talked about how to incite blunders in your opponent. This is a really bad position and maybe beyond saving, but we've got to try, don't we? At least my opponent's thinking. He's spending some time, which is good. It means that I can also spend some time thinking of an idea. Okay, so he's coming in with a very obvious plan, just doubling rooks, trying to take the undefended pawn. So I don't think I have much choice but to defend that. So that's what I'll do. This rook is a bit awkward where it is, isn't it? But what can we do? We have to respond to the immediate threats and try and get some active play going, if given a chance. I mean, of course, if you're white here, you want to keep the pressure up. You want to just keep on pummeling your opponent. Okay, so he's put the knight there, and I've really got to go for this trade because I can't let him shift my rook. And I've got 3 minutes left, so I also have to play quickly. Again, my opponent's got everything in his favour. He's got more material, he's got more time, and he's probably not recording a YouTube video, so he doesn't have to talk while he is playing and give a whole running commentary on the position. It's just something that takes a bit of getting used to, I think. Alright, so now I do have a move. He's got some doubled pawns. He's got 2 bishops. I've got a knight. I need to look for a way of forking his pieces or taking advantage of a check somewhere, maybe to get a double attack going. I've got to get the queen into the game, so let's do that. Let's give him something to think about. This pawn is attacked twice now. Natural to defend it just with a move like this, but the queen has got a few more squares now that it's on e8. The rook also needs to get into the game. I mean, he could also just take this one off if he wanted to. If he wants to really just, you know, not even worry that his bishop is better than my knight and he just wants to trade pieces, that would be a legitimate way of playing. Although I would like to see that, because at the moment the dark squared bishop is stopping any checks that I might be able to give with my queen. I've got to preserve the queens is another thing, and to have any chance at all of saving this game, I have to keep the queens on the board. Maybe with his exposed king there might be some tactics. He does take it, which I'm a bit surprised to see. It is simplifying the game, which you want to do when you're ahead material. But that bishop was an important piece. I feel. So he's got, what has he got? He's got an extra bishop. That's his advantage. Plus some extra space. He's got some doubled pawns, but so do I. What's bad about his position is his exposed king, and his pawns are a little loose and all over the board. What's good about his position are that his rooks are coordinated, and he is just looking to trade everything, huh? This is his idea. He just wants to take here, which makes his rook a little loose, but at least I get to undouble my pawns, so does he. Okay. Seems reasonable. This is where you start looking for tactics, though. This rook is undefended. This king has got a diagonal where my queen might be able to have some ideas. This rook is active. This rook is not active. You're sort of loath to go for trades in positions like these, but you also need to think of a winning idea. If I go here, it puts my queen on a dark square, which gives me some more potential of giving a timely check. Of course, he wants to trade pieces, though. This is what he's signalled. So if I give him what he wants, is that necessarily what I want to do? Maybe not. Maybe I want to frustrate him a little. Let's put it here. My idea is I'll push this pawn forwards, and after this trade, my rook gets into an active position. If he pushes forwards, then, well, if he pushes forwards, I suppose that's another thing I have to consider. He's got a lot of space then, doesn't he? If I push forwards and he pushes forward too. I mean, I don't like my position at all, but I think he's given me some chances by trading off that important dark squared bishop. Let's see if I can take advantage of it in some way. I think I am going to have to trade this rook, right, to get pieces into the game. So after he takes, my queen is improved. He might. I'm pretty sure he's going to go for this. I mean, he's just trying to trade everything. I've got 1:47 left. He's got 10 minutes left. So he's got all the time in the world to think carefully about it and mess it up. Again, maybe wishful thinking, but we have to hope, don't we? This is the kind of position where if you're winning, you can get a bit overconfident. You can start to think that you've just got everything so under control that you can do no wrong, and you might try and win the game instantly with a clever tactic, which turns out to be not so clever. Let's see. This is what David Smerdon in The Complete Chess Swindler would call hubris. When you're so far ahead and you just want the game to be over, and you get complacent, you get lazy. So he's putting his queen away from some idea that I had of getting a rook to this square. He probably wants to just push his pawns, right? So let's again give him something to think about. Let's put the queen on a square where it can think about giving a check. It also stops this pawn from moving forward. This pawn is defended, so no worries there. He might push on with this, but that doesn't work. Also frustrates him. What would be amazing is if I could get a passed pawn to really send the nerves through him. He does still have an extra piece. Like, the bishop isn't doing much at the moment, but of course if everything gets traded, then that extra bishop will win the game. The queen's gotten a little active now. Now he wants to... He's targeting this pawn. He's targeting this pawn with two attackers. And I just have the king defending it by itself at the moment, so strikes me as a good move. Of course, if I trade, he's going to be very happy with that. So I don't want to do that. This looks super ugly, defending on the 7th rank, but again, it is just a niggly move. It's saying, hey, I'm seeing what you're threatening and I'm going to stop it. I am not resigning yet. And he's got to find a way through. What's he going to do? I mean, this is an idea, isn't it? Though, again, it doesn't quite work because the queen is defending the rook. The queen is very well placed. Like, my queen is in a very good position with lots of threats. It's on a dark square, so it's got ideas of giving a check. I mean, not now because the white queen is defending it, but if his rook ever moves, there's checks on the back rank. He might just play a prophylactic move here like king h1. Okay, so he's trying to insist on the trade, and I'm going to insist on not trading, of course. But yes, his other threat is to come here, which would be a fork of king and rook. So is he forcing me to trade? Is he forcing me to trade? Okay. Well, let's see. What if I... Is there any way to stop this queen trade? I've got 44 seconds to think about it. Okay, check, of course, we trade queens and the game's over, or good is over. If I move the queen out of the way, he gives the check here. Is the only move this one to keep the game going. That stops that check. 33 seconds, just keep an eye on that timer. The commentary might slow down here a little. I do have this idea as well, next move, depending on what he does, which might pick up this pawn in some situations. I think that was a good move there by me. I mean, it's just continuing to ask White the question. Like, so far White is answering all the questions, but he'll be getting a little annoyed, right, that I'm seeing all the threats. F7 is now very well defended. He could push on with this move. If he does that, I want to play rook d7. I want to kick that queen away. Ask it where it really is going. This pawn here is also loose, so I need to do something about that. It would also be great if we were on more of a even footing when it comes to time on the clock. As it is, I've got a huge disadvantage with time, so I'm going to have to play my moves quickly. Okay, so he's gone with a forward move, which might allow me to win a pawn, I think. No. Okay, so if I go here, he takes with the queen. Okay, I'll take here. Gives me some more potential, some more dark squares that I can think of going to. Okay, he takes. I will play this move that I wanted to play, getting his queen to to decide where it wants to go. My queen can now come into squares like this one, depending on where white's queen goes. But really, I just want to harass this white queen and hope that a tactic appears. I mean, if he gets off this diagonal, then there's a check at the right moment. I mean, there's no point playing a check just for the sake of it, but it could be a useful check if I can use it to add an extra attacker to a piece when there's already an attacker on it. So he's thinking where his queen wants to go. Remember, this diagonal is quite important. And at the moment, my queen does have potential to come to a square like here, or to a square like here, targeting this pawn. His bishop is really not doing much. It's interesting, isn't it? Because of course he's got an extra piece, but an extra piece is not so relevant if they're not using it. I mean, obviously in an endgame it'll become important, but so far he's not using the extra piece that he's got. What if I just attack this queen again? You know, really just ask him. You know, hey man, you where are you going to move that queen? Move it somewhere where that rook can't attack it. Try and find another square. I mean, if he moves back here, then no problem. Okay, so I do still have to watch out for this check. I'm just going to keep on doing this. I'm going to keep on doing it until he... you can take that pawn though, of course. Yes. Yeah. This is the problem with playing with not much time on the clock, isn't it? I do still have this check. Maybe I just dive in with the queen and see what happens. Obviously I can't take here. I've got 12 seconds left. Let's just come in here. He can play a check here, in which case I'm still surviving. I'm attacking this pawn, and I maintain this diagonal if his queen moves away from it too much. This will be a heck of a swindle if I pull this off, and I'm nowhere close to pulling it off yet. I'm like, my opponent is now a piece and a pawn up, so another way that he can win is just by pushing these pawns forward. He's got a 2 versus 1 majority on the queen side. His pawns are a little loose. My rook is a little loose. So that's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to target that one. I'll just need to step out of the way. I mean, I'm going a little defensive here, aren't I? I mean, I'm not going to win this by defending. No. So he's... How can I win this? Like, if I can. All right, let's try this. Let's try just the direct approach. Let's try putting all the pieces around his king and see if he panics. Okay, so that's a check. That's a rather annoying check, isn't it? Obviously taking the defender away from where it needed to be. Yeah. Here. Forcing the queen trade. Okay. Now this is very bad. This is actually hopeless, isn't it? I can go here. Just keep on annoying him. But now his pawns are easily promoting. Give him another check just to irritate him. Move the king forward. Let's see, will he hang a piece? That's about what I'm hoping for now. Get the rook behind the pawns. We'll just move forwards. I'll go here. The good thing with 10-second increment is that you do actually get extra time for every move you make. I'll just get closer. If he moves forward, then I take this one. Moves his own king in. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is resignable, isn't it? But who knows? Worth a punt. So if I can trade pawns, that would be a good thing. If we can get down to a situation where it's a bishop versus nothing, then that's a draw, isn't it? You got to be optimistic. You got to be optimistic when you're playing these losing end games. But you know, there's optimism and then there's just delusion, isn't there? If he moves his bishop, then I can take that pawn. For the moment, his king is not able to infiltrate. He's got a light squared bishop, so everything on dark squares is ideal. I have to say, anyone who's still watching this, who's watching me just get destroyed in this position, you deserve. Well, I don't know what you deserve, but if you're still watching, good on you. There's two ways that this can go, isn't there? There's either of this could be an incredible comeback, which you're going to be very glad to make sure you stuck around to watch right until the end, or you're going to be like, what the hell was I doing spending this time watching Nathan Rose get crushed? I mean, if I was my opponent here, I'd be kind of annoyed that I hadn't resigned yet. But chess is a game where we're not trying to make it easy for the person we're playing against, are we? We're actually trying to annoy them and frustrate them, which is what I'm endeavouring to do here with everything I've got. Let's just give another check. Let's just keep giving another check. And what else can I do? I can attack that one. I'll just push forwards. Yeah. Put it here. This is how the computer would play an endgame, I think. You know, it would never resign. It would keep playing until checkmate. King comes in, all right. I'll just go back. So he can't move his pawn forward in either direction at the moment because the rook is doing a good job protecting it. I learnt this by playing an endgame against the computer where I was up by 2 pawns, so I had a winning position, and I just saw what the computer did. The thing is, like, his king can't come in this way, can it? Now, you might say that I am sort of in Zugzwang here, because my rook is happy where it is, my king is happy where it is, but I want to just keep control of this pawn. Okay, moves forwards, very sensible. I'll just stop that pawn from moving any further. If he's going to beat me, he's going to have to play a few more moves. Can't I just take that? Okay, but he can take this one, I see. All right, that's his idea. All right, he's given up one of his pawns because he can. Let's just keep attacking stuff. Hopefully he'll just get careless and leave his rook hanging. But it doesn't look like he's going to do that, does it? Looks like he's pretty much got this under control. Okay, if I go here, he'll give a check. Just waiting for that check. Yep, he does it. So now I'm being forced backwards. If I go here, then I get checked again, so let's not allow that one. Let's put the king on a dark square so that the bishop can't harass it. And on the other hand, I am going to keep harassing his king. No respect, eh? No respect. Not resigning in a totally lost position. Goes there. All right, let's just give a check and check. Okay. Still hasn't thrown it away, frustratingly. Okay, let's just put it there. So his king's coming in. And he wants to put his king here to get my rook to move. For sure. Is there a trick here? Is there a trap? Let's go here. Of course, he does have pawns on both sides of the board, which is the thing he's got in his favour. So against this one, okay, against this one, we can move the rook around. He's just got too many pawns though, doesn't he? Maybe a little sneaky one, if he's not paying attention. Although it doesn't really achieve much anyway, does it? Although, you know, on the edge of the board, you never know. Okay. Check. What do you think? I think my opponent's done enough, huh? I think he's got this one. All right, I resign. All right, so what went wrong there? I mean, it's just the opening, really, wasn't it? It was. I think I was completely fine here, but I struggled to deal with his plan, which was f4. How should I have responded here? Let's take a look at the game review and see what it recommended in that position, or if the mistake actually came even earlier than that. So it's saying he played with 87% accuracy, which is very good. Too good for me. Yeah, so it's saying that all this was fine for me. Just, you know, white has an advantage, but it's just the normal advantage that you get with the white pieces, having moved first. So the rook coming out here was probably a waste of time. I can agree with that. This was also a waste. Like, I never got to play on the queen side, really. This knight coming out here, I mean, I just lost too many tempos, really, didn't I? Like, the knight looks good on that square, but it's not doing much. So when the pawn came through, I think I probably should have taken it, right? Like, I know that it improves one of his pieces, but the alternative was he just got way too much space. Let's see. What's the best move? It's saying that was good, but the best move was taking? No, actually, moving the bishop out here. All right, well, when he came forwards, then what? Right, so this was a point where it got to +3, so that's what you call a decisive advantage already. So from there, it was +3, and it was never less than that for the whole rest of the game. So the best move here, taking. Okay, I didn't want to do that because, of course, it weakens the pawns around my king, but the alternative is just even worse, just getting way too much of a space disadvantage and getting pushed off the board. Oh well. I'll keep attempting these King's Indian games. They're not going so well for me so far, though, are they? Yeah, just when you're learning a new opening, it's not just remembering the first few moves, but it's also remembering the middle game ideas. And this is a bit of an unusual one, with white actually being the one to push forward with f4. Usually it's black who tries to close the center and pushes his own f-pawn up the board. But, oh well, that's the game. Hope you learned something from that, and hopefully I'll do better next time. This is Nathan Rose. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more more of me trying to master the King's Indian, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.